Ever get that feeling? Like you're shouting into a void.
Oh,
You pour your heart into that post or video or, email hit send.
yeah.
It's like our brains are just wired to tune out anything that's, too familiar.
Yeah, it's true. Our brains are kind of like overloaded with information these days. It's almost like they've developed this like internal spam filter.
I like that.
So all those like generic hooks we see everywhere, like 5 ways to or the secret to,
They just don't.
they just go right by.
They barely even register anymore.
So how do we like cut through that? How do we actually capture attention in a way that like
Right.
makes a difference? Well, today's deep dive is all about cracking the code of attention. And we're doing that with what's called a contrarian hook. And to help us with that, we've got Christian Escobedo with us.
Yeah, he's a 7-figure sales consultant, and he specializes in what's called high-ticket sales,
Okay.
which basically means he helps businesses sell their like really high-priced products or services. Got it.
And he does this mainly through workshops and webinars. So those are like online events where he can connect with a large audience all at once.
So not your typical sales calls then. What I find interesting is how Christian focuses on earning the right kind of attention, the kind that actually leads to sales.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. This isn't just for like high-ticket sales. These principles can apply to really any message that needs to, stand out.
Oh, for sure.
Christian actually argues that most of us, we get stuck trying to tweak our wording or make our designs all fancy, when the real problem is way deeper than that.
It's not about all the bells and whistles. It's about grabbing attention right from the get-go.
Right.
And that's where the contrarian hook comes in. Instead of like fitting in with expectations, it defies them.
Okay, so you're saying instead of telling people what they think they already know,
Yeah.
you're kind of like shaking things up.
Exactly. So imagine everyone saying content is king.
Okay.
A contrarian hook might be the more you write, the fewer people read.
Ooh, I see what you mean. That definitely makes you stop and think. But it's not just about being shocking for the sake of it, right?
Right. It's not about being like a shock jock. There's a method to it.
Yeah.
Christian has a specific formula. First, you got to start with a bold statement. Something unexpected that challenges, conventional wisdom.
So don't just say like, sales funnels don't work,
Right.
but show me why they don't work.
Exactly. Give them evidence, data, examples, things that trigger curiosity instead of skepticism.
Okay.
And finally, you got to lead them into the rest of your message. Think of the hook like a doorway. You got to keep them engaged once they step inside.
So it's almost like that contrarian statement forces you to prove it wrong in your own mind.
Yeah.
Is that why they work?
That's a big part of it. It's tapping into something called cognitive dissonance. It's that, like, uncomfortable feeling you get when you're holding two conflicting beliefs.
Oh, yeah.
So when you present a statement that challenges what they think they know, it forces people to engage more deeply to resolve that dissonance.
Right.
It's like a mental tug of war
Interesting.
that keeps them reading or listening.
And this isn't just like some theory, right? Christian sees real results.
Sure, yeah.
People are getting higher open rates on their emails, more clicks on their ads, and just more engagement overall.
Exactly.
It makes sense.
Yep.
If something makes you stop and think, you're way more likely to remember it.
Totally.
But I imagine there's a fine line here. You can't just throw out like outrageous claims,
Right.
especially if you're in those high-ticket sales where trust is so important.
Totally agree. Screaming everything's a scam isn't exactly a winning strategy.
Right.
That's why Christian developed something he calls zero claims contrarian statements. So instead of making wild claims, you focus on highlighting the flaws in those common assumptions.
So like, how would you do that?
You could use templates like, everyone says common belief, but in reality, contrarian belief. Or, the biggest myth about topic is myth, and here's why it's wrong.
I like that. They're punchy and they challenge those assumptions, but they don't make you sound,
Right.
crazy. What are some other templates he uses?
The truth is contrarian belief, not common belief. Or why common belief is the fastest way to undesired outcome.
Those are good. So instead of saying you need a massive email list,
Right.
you could say something like, the truth is you need fewer higher quality leads, not a massive list.
Now you're getting it. You're making them question what they thought they knew.
Yeah.
And that's how you grab and keep their attention.
It's like you're giving people permission to think differently. But just for our listeners out there who might not be marketing experts, Can you quickly break down what those things like open rates and clicks on ads even mean?
Yeah, for sure. Open rates are just the percentage of people who open an email that you send, and clicks on ads are pretty self-explanatory. It's how many times people click on your online advertisements.
Okay.
And engagement usually refers to things like likes, comments, and shares on social media.
Right.
So basically, the higher these numbers are,
The more people are paying attention.
Yeah.
Got it. Thanks for clarifying that. I'm already thinking of some beliefs in my own industry that I could challenge with this approach.
that's the beauty of it.
It's a whole new way of looking at messaging.
It forces you to think critically, question the status quo, and find those unexpected truths that will resonate with your audience. And that's exactly what we're going to explore further in this deep dive. We'll dissect more examples of these zero claims contrarian statements and discuss how you can adapt them for your own content, offers, and overall message.
I am so ready.
Let's do it.
Okay, so I'm ready to roll up my sleeves and start actually crafting some of these contrarian hooks.
Right.
But before we get there, could we unpack a few more of Christian's zero claims contrarian statement templates?
Yeah, sure.
I think hearing specific examples would really help our listeners.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's say you're a coach, right?
Got it.
And you're helping entrepreneurs build online businesses.
Mm-hmm.
A common belief might be that you need a massive social media following to succeed.
Oh, yeah, you hear that all the time. But I bet it's not always true.
Exactly. So using a zero claims contrarian hook, you might say something like, stop chasing followers. Here's why focusing on genuine connections is the real key to building a thriving business.
Ooh, I like that. It immediately challenges the assumption
Right.
and makes you want to know more about those genuine connections.
Exactly. It sparks that curiosity without making any crazy claims. Or let's say you're in the financial space
Okay.
and everyone's pushing that whole hustle harder narrative.
Yeah.
A contrarian hook could be why working less might actually be the smartest financial move you can make.
Okay, that one's speaking to me right now.
Right.
Sign me up for that webinar. So it seems like the key is to identify a belief that's widely accepted in your industry,
Yes.
but might not actually be true.
You got it. It's like targeting those sacred cows
I like
that
that.
everyone just takes for granted, and then you flip them on their head.
We love to disrupt.
And this works because psychologically, we're wired to pay attention to things that disrupt our expectations.
It's like you're giving people permission to question those assumptions.
Exactly. And when you do that well, you not only capture their attention, but you also position yourself as an authority, someone who sees things differently and offers a fresh perspective.
That's huge.
Oh.
Okay, so we've got the formula, we've got the templates.
Mm-hmm.
What are some pro tips to make sure my contrarian hook is as effective as possible?
Well, the most important thing is relevance. Your hook needs to directly address the needs and pain points of your audience. What are they struggling with? What misconceptions are holding them back?
So don't just choose a contrarian statement because it sounds cool or edgy.
Right.
It has to actually resonate with your audience.
Exactly. And the more specific you can be, the better. Instead of saying most marketing advice is wrong, try the #1 mistake coaches make when marketing their online courses.
Okay, yeah, that's way more specific. The more targeted, the more impact.
For sure. Another thing is to keep it concise and punchy. Your hook should be instantly understandable and memorable.
Like a good headline.
Exactly. Think of it like a headline. It needs to grab attention and convey the essence of your message in just a few words. Avoid jargon and overly complex language.
Don't bury the lead.
Yeah.
Make sure it flows naturally into the rest of your content.
Exactly. You don't want to just drop a truth bomb and then walk away. Give them a reason to want to learn more.
So it's not just about being contrarian to be cool.
Yeah.
It's about offering real value
Yeah.
and insights that your audience can actually use.
Absolutely. And don't be afraid to experiment and test different hooks, see what resonates with your audience, track your results, and refine your approach over time.
So find what works for your audience.
Yeah, there's no one size fits all.
There's no magic formula.
Exactly. But this gives us a framework to start testing.
So beyond those specific metrics like open rates and clicks and all that, what's the bigger picture here? Why is capturing attention so crucial these days?
Well, think about it. Attention is the currency of the digital age.
Ooh.
Right? With so much information competing for our eyeballs, the ability to capture and hold someone's focus is incredibly valuable. So whether you're a business owner, a content creator, or just someone with an important message to share, contrarian hooks can help you cut through the noise and get your voice heard.
It's like that saying, if a tree falls in the forest and no one is around to hear it, does it make a sound? It doesn't matter how brilliant your message is. if no one is paying attention.
Exactly. Contrarian hooks help ensure that your message doesn't fall on deaf ears.
You know, it's interesting. As we've been talking,
Yeah,
I've realized that contrarian hooks aren't just about grabbing attention.
right.
They're also about starting conversations.
That's a great point. They spark curiosity, challenge assumptions, and invite people to engage on a deeper level.
Yeah.
And that engagement is what leads to those conversions, whether it's signing up for your email list, buying your product, or simply changing their perspective on something.
It's like that mental nudge we talked about earlier.
Exactly.
You're encouraging people to think differently.
And that's where the real magic happens. So are you ready to put this into practice?
I am. I'm ready to start crafting some contrarian hooks of my own, and I bet our listeners are too. But before we jump into that, I think it's important to acknowledge that using these techniques ethically is super important.
Oh, 100%. While contrarian hooks can be incredibly effective, we got to use them responsibly. Avoid making misleading or exaggerated claims. The goal is to capture attention authentically and provide genuine value.
Right. The last thing we want is for people to feel like they're being tricked or manipulated.
Right.
It's about being truthful and transparent, even when you're challenging those conventional wisdoms.
Exactly. Integrity is key.
Huh.
And that leads us to a thought-provoking question for our listeners. In a world where attention is currency, what unexpected truth are you willing to share to grab and hold the attention you deserve?
That is a great question to ponder. And we'll be right back after a quick break to explore that further and give you the tools to craft your own compelling contrarian hooks. Okay, we're back, and my brain is like exploding with ideas for contrarian hooks.
I bet.
It's amazing how just shifting your perspective a little bit can completely change the way you think about your messaging.
Yeah, it's really powerful.
So before we wrap up this deep dive into contrarian hooks, let's do a quick recap of everything we talked about.
All right, sounds good.
So we started by acknowledging the huge amount of information we're all dealing with every day
Yeah, the information overload.
and how our brains have learned to just tune it out.
Right, like it's white noise.
And then we learned about Christian Escobedo,
Yeah, the sales guru.
who's had so much success with contrarian hooks.
Especially with those high-ticket sales.
And we broke down his formula, right?
Yes, starting with that contrarian statement, then backing it up with proof, and then leading into the rest of your message.
And of course, we talked about those zero claims contrarian statements.
Right, that's key.
Which is such a smart way to challenge beliefs without sounding like a crazy person.
Exactly. You maintain that credibility.
We even went through some of Christian's favorite templates. So you guys have a blueprint to start crafting your own hooks.
It's a great starting point.
But this is about more than just a marketing tactic.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's about understanding how attention works
Right, the psychology behind it.
and why some messages grab us and others just don't.
It's about being different.
It's about having the courage to be different, to break free from the cliches.
Yeah, and share your unique perspective.
So as we wrap up, I want to leave you with this challenge.
Okay.
Take those templates we talked about and brainstorm some unexpected truths in your industry.
What are those sacred cows?
What are those assumptions that are holding people back?
Find them and flip them.
And once you've got them, craft some contrarian hooks that'll make people stop and think.
Make them go, never thought of it that way.
But remember, the hook is only as good as the message it leads to.
Right, don't forget that part.
So make sure your content delivers on that initial promise.
Give them the goods.
Offer real value, a fresh perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, leave them feeling like they learned something.
So go out there, experiment, test things out,
What works.
and see what resonates with your audience.
Your audience is key.
And remember, this is an ongoing process.
Right. Always be learning and refining.
What works today might not work tomorrow.
It's all about evolution.
Stay curious and keep refining.
Because the beauty of the contrarian hook is that it forces you to think outside the box.
It keeps you on your toes.
Keeps those creative juices flowing.
It's a challenge,
Oh, yeah.
but it's also an incredible opportunity
To really stand out.
to cut through all that noise and make an impact.
And who knows? Maybe your unexpected truth will be the one that changes the world.
I love that.
Yeah.
And that's it for today's deep dive.
That's a wrap.
We'll catch you next time.
See ya.